Good afternoon, everybody. I know that people are filing in from the other room, but we might as well get started. Okay, thank you all for coming, for being here. My name is Myung. I'm an associate professor of theology and cultural criticism here at CTS. The idea behind this panel of international students comes from the recognition that what is happening today in this country under this administration has implications that are international and global in proportion. So the concern, worry, or even outrage that many people in this country are feeling is eminently shared by people around the world. It is certainly shared with the same degree of acuteness by the people who are living in this country as non-residents, non-citizens, including those who are here on student visas. Chicago Theological Seminary has always taken pride in the rich contributions made by our international students. We often rely upon the global perspectives they bring upon issues that are theological, cultural, and even pastoral. Today we are seeking their wisdom and insights, again, in understanding the global context of what is happening under the Trump administration. We have asked them to share with us how they feel or are personally affected by the current situation in this country, and how what is happening in this country is affecting their respective countries. So I am happy to introduce 4 students in our doctoral programs representing 4 different countries around the world. First, in the order of their appearance, we have Monty Togweri from Zimbabwe, and Wei-Jin Chen from Taiwan, and Haemon Hong from Korea, and Alemayehu Vite from Ethiopia. And at the end, I will take on the personality of someone who comes from North Korea, and speak just a little about the situation from the perspective of North Korea. Each of us will speak, and at the end, we will invite questions from the audience. Happy to introduce the first speaker, Mr. Monty Togweri from Zimbabwe.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. So here I was minding my own business and just being a normal immigrant. And we have this application called WhatsApp. So you can go and you form a group and you've got like 250 people coming onto it. And as I did that one day, this is the message that came on, and this is the message that was being circulated. Please carry your green card in your wallet if you're a permanent resident. It is the law. Leave a copy at home. And then it goes to visitors. Print your I-94 and carry your unexpired passport. If your paper's about to expire, put in for an extension and carry your receipt with your passport. They have speeded up deportation of all citizens of other countries. If you are illegal and if you've committed misdemeanors, which is, this is the strike, the third strike, right? That's what you call it, the third strike? Yeah, felony. Make arrangement now with people who can take care of your kids. Store and mortgage in case you are arrested or imprisoned or deported. Naturalized citizens, especially black or anyone with an accent. Wow. Order a citizenship card that you can carry in your wallet. The general advice, don't stay out late, don't run a red light, don't get involved in anything that will involve police and fingerprints. More than anything, have a next of kin or friend of yours or a pastor that can check on you every now and then if you have any reason to worry about your status or your past. Neighbors, check on neighbors. This is like not any other time, or this thing is a phase, it will pass, but don't fall victim and don't be collateral damage. May the Lord see us through this season. Please send to everyone you know in the US. And as soon as I got that, I was forwarding it to everyone. So briefly, what I want to say is that what happens is that when you immigrate to the United States of America, there are basically 3 things that you have to have. And sometimes people do not know about it. I'll try as much as possible to just show you. You get a visa, like this, and the visa is on your passport, okay? And then you get another second document, which is called the I-20, which is this, okay? And then the I-94 that I talked about, which is this, okay? So the I-94 is the one that shows that you have legally entered the United States of America and you did not jump the border. So basically what they can do is that they can track you with your I-94 because they generate a number from there. So that's the reason why people were being told to keep their I-94. Because when they get to you and you've got your I-94, then you show them, here, this is my I-94. Legally, I am here. But what has happened is that when this came through, people were saying, oh, you are paranoid. This is paranoia that is happening. But what I want to let people know, and just look at this short video so that they can tell. You can just listen.
The African Economic Summit is usually an opportunity for people to network and talk about trade between the U.S. and Africa. But not many people are here this year, says event organizer Mary Flowers.
Usually we get about 40% that get rejected, but the others come. This year it was 100%, every delegation. And it was sad to see because these people were so disheartened of what happened.
This is the 4th year Flowers has put on this African Trade and Development event. But U.S. embassies in African countries denied attendees visas, about 100 people by her estimation. The countries affected included Sierra Leone, Guinea, Ghana, Nigeria, Ethiopia, and South Africa.
These kinds of things happen that makes it very difficult and challenging for us to connect.
Flowers doesn't know why all of the Africans heading to her event were denied visas this year, but she suspects it has something to do with the broader visa and travel controversy under President Trump. She's appealed to current and former lawmakers, including former Congresswoman Diane Watson.
There are ambassadors that were scheduled to be here at this summit that were denied visas. They rejected their visas. As you know, under the current administration, they are limiting the number of people who come from the continent of Africa into America, and they're denying the visas.
Watson says she has called the State Department to ask for information, but the State Department isn't allowed to discuss individual visa cases. There have been reports of U.S. embassies worldwide denying more travel visas, but it's hard to know for sure. The available State Department data only goes up to last fall.
I have to say that most of us feel that it is a discrimination issue with the African nations because we experience it over and over and over. And the people that are being rejected are people that are legitimate business people with ties to the continent.
People were hoping to do business here, but not much has happened. And organizers vowed to get to the bottom of it. For Voice of America at the University of Southern California, this is Michelle Quinn.
So there you see it, 100% denial of visas for an African summit for African people with 0% Africans. So 100 attendees were denied visas. And in case the travel ban were at some other countries, but you see Sierra Leone, Guinea, Ghana, Nigeria, Ethiopia, South Africa, this indeed is a discrimination issue. And people that have got legitimate business that they have to do with the US are being banned and denied entrance into the US. So now it's very difficult even for us. If you're here, you have to finish your study program before you even decide of going back down to the mother continent. And the State Department is not allowed to discuss these issues. And what has happened is that there are two things that have been affected: tourism and trade. You haven't seen that because we haven't reached 100 days. And they said you've got another 1,400 days to go before the next term starts. So what happens is that tourism is going to decline because countries are saying to people, avoid going to the US. And trade also is going to decline as well. Well, in closing, what I would like to say is that you have all heard something that is called America First, America First, America First. But I think I'm in agreement with others who are saying that it's going to be changed from America First to America alone. Thank you.
I'm Wei Ren. I want to share my experience and my observation about the presidency in Taiwan. The first thing is about LGBT equal rights. And maybe some of us have known that the Constitutional Court of Taiwan had held a hearing concerning about the same-sex marriage 2 weeks ago. And the final judgment will be announced at the end of May. Taiwan would be the first equal marriage country in Asia if the Christian right do no harm to against the LGBT people. Although the President Trump got a rainbow flag during the campaign, but his Vice President Pence is a well-known person who proclaimed the conversion therapy. The federal order of gender-friendly restaurant has canceled several weeks ago, and the worst condition is the idea of a combination of a nationalist and a Christian kingdom that will include the diversity in religions, races, and cultures. For me, Make America Great Again is equal to Make America White, Christians, and heterosexism again. Especially the chief strategist of President Trump, Steve Bannon, is a well-known economic nationalist and believes deeply in the Christian value of the United States and the West are under attack from the secularist Islam and other cultures. Steve Bannon said, "There is a major war brewing, a war that's already global," end quote. The Christian right in Taiwan has gained the support from the right wing of the United States, such as the Alliance Defending Freedom, the Beckett Fund, and the Liberty Council to oppose LGBT equal rights and sex education in Taiwan. You should not be surprised that the chairperson of Pro-Family Value of the United States appeared at a public hearing of Taiwan's Congress several months ago, and she's saying, "This is a miserable thing that children will born in a same-sex couple family." And now, President Trump played a role as a new savior in the heart of Christians in Taiwan. What he has done or will do in this country will represent soon in Taiwan toward the LGBT communities. The second is about the One China policy. Last week, a Taiwan citizen, Myung was arrested illegally by the China government. Till now, there are no message from him. In the following days, the leaders of China government and the President of the United States will have an official meeting and the conversations. Yesterday, several newspapers from Japan disclosed that the United States government planned to sell the fighter aircraft F-35 and THAAD system to Taiwan. some of us might still remember that there was a phone call from Mr. Trump with my president, Wen Tsai, several months ago. And Trump just said that Taiwan wants to buy something from us, so maybe we don't need to take good care about that one China policy. But soon later, he has changed his mind. Taiwan became the bargaining chip between China and the United States. The exploitation will get worse toward Taiwan. Taiwan is forced to participate in the competition of these two countries. And unfortunately, there are lots of private benefits under the table do not be revealed between the United States and China. And according to the WikiLeaks, the former Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, seems to agree with exchanging the benefit of the United States in the Far East by selling of Taiwan to China. This kind of policy and agreement is dangerous to Taiwan and its independence and its democracy, and all the countries in Asia or even all around the world. The third issue about the global warming. President Trump has signed a sweeping executive order to dismantle the former President Obama's climate change legacy and start a new era of production and job creation next week. That means the carbon control will fail and the Environmental Protection Agency gets less budget to fulfill the goal of the Paris Climate Agreement. President Trump takes climate change as an issue that theft of prosperity, but he might know some truth about the United States and the global warming. There's an island named Tangier Island in Virginia. That island is swallowed by the sea annually. There are more places in this country facing the same challenge. It is worse in most of the subtropical area in Asia. Taiwan is one of the countries suffering from the climate change, especially the rising sea level and the extreme weather. That damage our living life now and the environment of the next generations. The ideology of caregiving of the poor seems has changed in this presidency. The United States is one of the major pollution-orange countries in this earth. The public obligation of the United States now overlooked and thrown away. President Trump, his attitude will make the global warming get worse, and there will be more innocent suffering from the behavior of this country.
Before I start my presentation, I would like to share one video. The video is about Korean people's voices on Donald Trump presidency. And we are going to watch this video, and I do like to continue to my presentation.
Hey guys, it's Steve from Asian Boss. People from all around the world are coming to terms with the fact that Donald Trump has just been elected the President of the United States. Given that South Korea is one of the US's closest allies, we're going to find out from the people of Korea how they feel about the Trump presidency. Let's see what they have to say. 도널드 트럼프가 미국 대통령이 당선됐다는 소식을 들으셨나요?
아, 네, 들었죠.
예, 그 실시간으로 보고 있었어요.
소식을 들었을 때 심정이 어떠셨어요?
솔직히 트럼프가 그동안 해온 거를 봤을 때 안 되겠거니 했는데 뭐 된 건가? 뭐 이런 약간 당황스러운 느낌?
되게 좀 당황스러웠죠.
왜요?
아무래도 실제로 그런 사람이 당선되리라고는 상상을 못했거든요. 좀 되게 만화 같기도 하고.
사실 엄청 놀랐어요. 왜냐면 이건 여론조사 같은 데서 전혀 예상하지 못했던 바고 많은 제 주변 사람들이 트럼프는 당선되면 안 된다 생각하고 있는데 실제로 됐다는 것이 좀 놀랍고.
왜 트럼프가 당선이 됐다고 생각을 하세요?
외국인 노동자들이 미국에서도 주로 많고 하니까 백인들이 이제 자기 직업을 일자리 잃었다 이런 생각을 하면서도 저 사람들을 조금 쫓아내자라는 말은 아무도 못 하고 있는데 이제 그거를 이제 한 거죠. 그러니까 이제 속으로 좋아하지 않았나 말은 못해도.
미국 국민들이 받은 좀 어떤 박탈감 같은 게 있다고 생각하는 게 미국이 어떤 세계적인 경찰의 역할을 맡으면서 자국 국민에 대해서는 조금 소홀했던 면이 이번에 민주당 정권에게 그대로 어떤 페인으로 작용하지 않았나 생각을 합니다.
트럼프가 미국에게 좋은 대통령이 될 거라고 생각을 하시나요? 좋은 정책을 펼칠 거라고 생각을 하시나요, 개인적으로? 좋은 점은 있나요, 혹시? 좋은 점?
좋은 점이라 좋은 점. 글쎄 당장 좋은 점은 잘 생각이 안 나네요.
굳이 이제 장점을 좀 따져보자면 부유층 사람들에게 좀 더 많은 생각과 고민을 들어가지고 그런 사람들에게는 좀 좋은 정책을 많이 내세우지 않을까. 부유층 쪽에는.
부유층만요?
그 아래에 있는 이제 부유층이 아닌 사람들, 서민들한테까지 생각을 깊게 할 수 있을까는 잘 모르겠어요.
저 솔직히 말씀드리면은 미국에는 좋을 것 같아요. 왜냐하면 이 세계의 뭐 안보를 책임지고 뭐 한국의 안보도 책임지고 뭐 이런 식으로 생각을 하는 사람들이 많았는데 이제 뭐 그런 거 안 하고 우리끼리 잘 살겠다 하면 미국 사람들은 좋아하지 않을까요?
저는 약간 보수적인 성향인데 그래도 트럼프는 너무 제가 봤을 때도 너무 강경책인 것 같아서 아주 좋은 대통령이 되지 못할 것 같아요. 왜냐하면 궁극적인 화합은 결국 안 되는 거잖아요.
이번에 이제 당선이 되면서 한국과 미국 관계에 어떤 영향을 미칠 것 같나요?
아무래도 주한미군 이야기를 하는 걸로 봐서 군사적인 어떤 방어 체계에 조금 더 비용이 많이 들게 될 것 같고 한국이 부담하는 비용이 또는 이제 FTA 같은 경우에도 트럼프가 다시 손본다고 이야기를 하는 걸로 봐서 수출에 있어서도 좀 관세 장벽이 생기지 않을까라고 생각을 하고 있어요.
그럼 관계가 나빠진다는 얘기인가요?
아마 그럴 것 같아요. 보호주의로 돌아서는 느낌이 강해서 어떤 외교적인 관계가 다시 조금 서로 멀어지지 않을까라는 생각을 해요.
한국인들의 입장에서는 이렇게 꼭 반길 만한 일은 아니라고 생각이 드는 게 주한미국 철수를 이제 공약으로 내세운 바도 있고 그리고 이제 앞으로 트럼프가 보호무역 정책을 세울 거라고 하는데 그게 우리나라 경제에 솔직히 미국을 의존을 많이 하고 있는 상황에서 그게 좋은 영향을 끼칠 것 같지 않다는 생각이 들어서 좀 안타까운 생각이 많이 듭니다.
지금 이 소식이 나온 다음에 많은 미국 사람들이 캐나다로 이민 간다고.
네, 저도 봤거든요. 이민 뭐 사이트가 터졌다고 캐나다 이민 사이트가.
한국 사람들은 막 미국을 가고 싶어하는 게 있잖아요. 약간 혹시 미국에 대한 인식이 이런 사건으로 인해서 좀 바뀌셨나요?
어떻게 보면 우리나라 사람들이 뭐 헬조선 이민 가야 돼 막 이런 얘기 하듯이 헬 아메리카 고 캐나다 하고 있잖아요. 어색해요. 그런 미국의 모습이 제가 봤을 때는.
원래는 미국에 대한 인식이 어땠었는데요?
인식은 그냥 거의 1등 국가고 뭐 그런 이상한 자기가 마음에 들지 않는 대통령이 나왔더라도 뭐 너는 너다 인정해 준다 뭐 이런 식이었는데 미국 사람들도 이건 아니다고 생각했는지 아니면 추세가 그렇게 좀 분리되는 사회인 것처럼 바뀌어서 그런 건지 좀 지켜봐야 될 것 같은 생각이. 그전에는 전 세계에 중심이 되는 국가였다가 지금은 정말 중국과 같이 그냥 한 지역의 중심이 되는 국가로 전락한 느낌?
저도 원래 미국 쪽에 이제 제가 일하고 싶은 좀 분야가 미국 쪽에 좀 발달이 돼 있어가지고 미국 가고 싶었는데 이게 좀 약간 신중하게 한 번 더 생각해 봐야 될 것 같아요.
지금 이게 보면은 미국뿐만 아니라 어떤 세계의 추세잖아요. 뭐 브렉시트도
예, 그렇죠.
사람들의 생각이 더 이렇게 좀 더 방어적이 되는 것 같다고 생각하세요?
그러니까 지난 10년, 20년간 세계화가 아주 급속하게 이루어졌기 때문에 그거에 대한 어떻게 보면 반작용이라고 생각을 해요. 그래서 이제 세계화로 인해서 좋은 점도 많고 뭐 수출이 더 잘 되고 뭐 득 보는 사람도 있지만 또 굉장히 피해를 본 사람도 많을 거 아니에요. 근데 그 사람들이 그 숫자가 늘어나면서 그래서 그런 사람들의 의견을 들어주는 정치인들 또한 인기를 얻고 있는 게 아닌가 생각을 합니다.
Yesterday, I posted on my Facebook page, and I asked my Facebook friends, how does Donald Trump's presidency affect to South Korea? They replied that we realize that we are not the only people who live in the hell. And one of my friends replied that, hey man, if you visit South Korea, can you return to the US? And it was pretty serious reply. Racism, misogyny, and discrimination against immigrants are not only our issues, but also theirs. There is a very interesting Facebook page, which name is 헬조선. Almost 50,000 people clicked like on this page. Including related Facebook pages, more than 100,000 people see 헬조선 pages on postings. 헬조선 is kind of a compound word. Hell is English term which means hell. And Joseon is name of 15th to 19th kingdom in South Korea. At that time, there was no South and North, it was just Korea. And they argued, the Facebook page 헬조선, that South Korea is a hell. They are going to get out of this country. This is a widespread phenomenon in South Korea among young people. Donald Trump presidency affects this phenomenon. It creates this opinion. America cannot be our dreams. We should change South Korea. We have right to happily live in this country. On the other hand, there are people who argue that there is no American dream. Let's go to Canada. According to OECD statistics, the South Korea has the highest youth suicide rate and highest income gap between genders. That's why they call South Korea as Hell Joseon. The Trump presidency inspired many Korean people. Exodus from South Korea to the US is not a good idea. Trump made them think that how to find and expose systemic evils like Trump, which are racism, sexism, homophobia, and anti-immigrants, and to transform our society. That is thinking of Korean publics. Not all of them, but my friends think that. I'd like to introduce two aspects on Donald Trump's presidency and South Korea. The first one is militarism. The second one is LGBTQ equality. 4 years ago, Vice President Joe Biden visited South Korea. His visiting purpose was enhancing military alliance among US, Japan, and South Korea. South Korea economically relies on China because South Korea sells a lot of products to China. On the other hand, South Korea militarily relies on the US. The power games between US and China, South Korea is forced to side either. Biden forced to side on the US. It was the pretty issues at the time in South Korea. Have you ever heard about THAAD, the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense? It is a United States Army ballistics missile system which is designed to shoot down short, medium, and intermediate range ballistic missiles in their terminal phase using a hit-to-kill approach. The US demands the South Korean government to buy and set this weapon. On the other hand, China opposes it because they think that THAAD threatens their security. In pacifist perspective, the THAAD enhances military tensions and may cause wars. Ironically, THAAD project began from Obama administrations. THAAD missiles arrived to South Korea from the US several weeks ago. The Trump administration seems to continue to THAAD project to pressure China. US military the US militarism is a never-ending story in South Korea. I'd like to compare the Obama administration and Trump administration on the LGBTQ issues in there. Actually, the Obama administration sent Randy W. Berry. He is the first special envoy for the human rights of LGBTQ. He visited South Korea and met many Korean LGBTQ activists, and he listened to their voices. And many Korean queer activists were encouraged by this visiting and their encouragement toward the queer activists in South Korea. And U.S. Embassy has been participated in Pride Parade in Seoul, South Korea. It was kind of very symbolic behavior toward Korean LGBTQ people because the U.S. Embassy and the state of the U.S. government officially support the Korean LGBTQ rights. But on the other hand, the Trump administration decided to keep this position, but for the first time they tried to eliminate this position. So I don't know what's going on the next, but it is clear that Trump administration is pretty different from the Obama administration on the LGBTQ policies. And the Trump administration is not kind of friendly toward Korean LGBTQ activism or their rights. The other issue is kind of marriage equality. It was a pretty big issue here too. In South Korea, same-sex marriage is not approved legally yet. And in military side, the gay people, their sex in military camp is illegal. Gay soldiers are criminalized in South Korea. That is really big issue recently. But ironically, there are US troops in South Korea. Their same-sex, the marriage and their rights are approved legally in South Korea. Actually, in the US troops in South Korea, they have very gay and lesbian friendly policies in there. It is pretty different point of the Korean government stance. But we don't know the Trump administration, how they deal with these issues in the next. Actually, Obama administration, there are many critics on their administration. Imperialism, militarism, even Democrats government, they are not pacifist and seek to peace. However, on gender issues, they were pretty radical and liberal toward the countries. But the Korean LGBTQ people and the activists really worry about the new presidents and what's going on in the world and the Korean society. Yeah, Alamayu, can you?
Okay, my name is Alamayo Fite, and I'm from Ethiopia, in the Horn of Africa. Unfortunately, I don't have video clips or nothing to play, but this is my observation, what I observed from people and from writings about the current administration of U.S. government. And this is what did I put. I can read from there. I didn't see specific speech, talks, or actions by the president on Ethiopia issue so far, except seems his administration is giving less attention to Africa in general, to the African countries, including Ethiopia, and much concerned about the Chinese economic dominance over many nations in Africa. I was listening to one of his speech during his campaign, and he is talking that U.S. is losing market in Africa and losing to Chinese, and he is saying he want to just lead a lot of investments or a lot of business in Africa. I only listened to that, and from there I didn't hear anything from him. According to many critics, Africa is overlooked in Trump's foreign policy. To mention a few, Stephen Feldstein, one of the critics from this country, writes, why the Trump administration should not overlook Africa. This is what his title. And he states there, as Donald Trump's administration becomes to sort out its foreign policy priorities, Africa has been notably absent from the conversation. This is what he's writing. I read all the article, and he's discussing how Donald Trump's policy is, what his policies look like to the Middle East, to other parts of the nation. But there is no any talks about the Africans at all. So this guy is criticizing that, and also I was observing from his campaign, and after his campaign and after coming to the position, he didn't make any comments regarding his policy to the African people or African nation. Commenting on justice, corruptions, on the current conflicts and politics upheavals in East Africa, again, this guy writes, Ethiopia faces several crosswinds after massive demonstration in the Oromo and Amara regions of the country. Ruled the country for most of 2015. The government dedicated a state of emergency in October 2016 and has imprisoned thousands of citizens, often without charge. That's from the same link. I want to say a little bit about the current situation in Ethiopia. Ethiopia is now, the Ethiopian people are demanding the leadership change in the country because a single party has been ruling for almost 27 years. So a lot of things are happening this time in Ethiopia, especially the government is a kind of government coming from a small ethnic group in Ethiopia. And they have been supported by this government, by USA, and then they came to power. After coming to power, they hold everything by themselves and just excluding or putting others into the margins and other ethnic groups. So especially the Oromo ethnic group is the majority group from where I am coming from, and they are making about 40% of the population of Ethiopia. And they are arguing that they were excluded from participating in politics, economy, and social system of the country. And they started the protests in 2015 of November. And that protest expanded to many parts of the country, including the Amara region, is the second largest ethnic group in Ethiopia, and to other regions too. And a lot of people were killed, almost more than 20,000 people were imprisoned. And now they are releasing some of them. So this is what this person is talking about. And they brought this issue to this country several times. Even when President Obama visited my country a year ago, they brought this issue to him, and even he didn't say anything about it, for your surprise. So the same thing is now the current government didn't give any response regardless of the people complain, and the political activists are always bring the issue to the government. And last month there was a hearing on the Ethiopian issue on the State Department, and they didn't respond that much. Ironically, Ethiopia is considered as an important ally of USA to combat terrorism in quotes in the Horn of Africa, like the Al-Shabaab in Somalia and the Boko Haram in Nigeria. Yes, Ethiopia is not only by the U.S., by most Western world countries. Ethiopia is regarded as important allies to Western nations. And I see this one as a kind of excluding Ethiopia from sister nations, and a kind of putting Ethiopia at the critical point where we have Somalia from here and Sudan from here, and also we have Eritrea from here. These countries are neighboring to Ethiopia, but USA government picked Ethiopia as a friend while demonizing other nations. On the other hand, it's a kind of creating enmity between those nations of Africa. So that Trump administration overlooked the Ethiopian people real interest in the name of securing peace or stability in the region. Yeah, it's a kind of saying we have to secure peace and stability in the Horn of Africa and eliminating what they call terrorism. I'm questioning this. It's not really. I can say I'm coming from Ethiopia, and Ethiopia government is making a kind of business, to make a business, just there is a terrorism in the Horn of Africa, and making stories after stories to drain money from the Western nation. So still the Trump administration, two of his delegates last month visited Ethiopia, and what they were speaking was about the terrorists in the Horn of Africa. In reality, when we come to there, it's really the Somali people, whom they call as Al-Shabaab, it's not really the terrorists. They are claiming their right to the country, to own their country by themselves, without interference of the Western nation. So even the Trump administration still is following the same tradition U.S. have been on the nation. For example, mass protests, as I represent, I don't need to add. Again, says the Trump administration is ignoring Ethiopian people's demands for justice and equality by siding with the dictators of the current regime. That's a repetition, I think. This especially people are making voices, their own voices. We need change in the country. We don't need to be led by only single ethnic group. We don't need to be led by, I can say, the richest group of the country, coming from the northern part of Ethiopia, and is making all investments by themselves while they're leading the country. Like Donald Trump, he's a business guy. Most of the leaders in Ethiopia are now the business people who are leading the country, and just having a close relationship with this country and with the business people from this country, and a kind of owning the country and the property, the economy of the country, and politics, everything of the country. And so I see this one still only siding with the leaders of the country who are really claiming themselves as a chosen one, as a chosen people to lead the country. As the government is supporting this Ethiopia through material and monetary funds. The ban, I'm talking about the religious ban over the countries. Oh, sorry. I'm talking about the religious ban on those countries, and especially the ban can worsen minor conflicts between Ethiopia and its neighboring sisters like Eritrea, Sudan, Somalia, Libya, and Yemen. On the one hand, I see this religious ban is making Ethiopia as a kind of Ethiopia as a chosen nation from the other countries. And so only putting the religious ban on other countries or neighboring countries can really bring a kind of more conflicts, more disagreement between those countries. That's what I'm thinking of. It can have also considerable impacts on the Ethiopian immigrants in those countries. We have a lot of immigrants in Somalia, in Sudan, in Yemen, in Libya, in many parts of those nations. And so really, immigrants are going from the country, leaving the country. People are leaving the country because of the political reason and the economic reason, because of various reasons, and they are trying to waiting the chance to go to some places, and it has a huge impact on these immigrant people in those countries. Visa issuances for legal visitors, business people, as Monty mentioned it. I also saw that video too. Business people, spouses, and families seem very tired after the new administration and the executive order of the president. I have many friends who are really processing for their families back home. Almost, it's a kind of, there is no hole to get visa according to their information. So this time I'm working with the community, Ethiopian community, and I'm one of their board members, and they are really very concerned about the current administration and what implication it may continue have on the Ethiopian people and on Ethiopian immigrants in different parts of the world, and also the Ethiopian immigrants here who are really struggling with life. Some Ethiopian immigrants in USA fear that Trump administration and the order may affect people who are seeking legal residences for the future. That's what they say. This is what I hear from their witness, and while I'm working with them, I'm going there for my research, and also I'm working as board member for the community. They are really concerned about their future lives in relationship with their families back home and with their countries back home. My friend's story, this is a very interesting story. This guy is a taxi driver, a cab driver in this city in Chicago. Two guys just asked him to ride with him, and he gave him a ride, and he was taking them to a restaurant or some place anyway. And they started a conversation with him as they just discussed, and they asked him, the first thing they asked is, where are you from? That's normally the immigrants, people who are different from these people. This is what we have been asking for years. Where are you coming from? From Ethiopia. What is your religion? He kept quiet. He was a Muslim. He kept quiet. And then, whom do you support in this country? Which political party is your favorite political party? He kept quiet. And then he continues to asking and asking. They continue asking and asking. And what do you think about this country? He kept quiet. And then after that, they really mocked at him and saying nasty words at him. It is you who are destroying our country. We have to chase you out. This is what we are going to do in the future. This is what they said to him. And my friend shared me this issue, and I don't want to mention his name, and he's a Muslim, and he was very scary, and really, he was very concerned, and he has a kind of taxi business here, his own, with a company, and he was really concerned about it, and what his future will be in this country. Trump's administration can also narrow chances to come for researches and studies for the future in Ethiopia, from Ethiopia. Have a lot of impacts on Ethiopian students in the country like me. Whenever I go to mall or wherever I go to restaurants to some place, whenever I drive, really, I was much scared if just I was caught by police and they do something against me. Even though I am a legal center with I-24, sometimes it may be are just country and you see a lot of stuff going on and they excluding. I feel bad for myself when especially going with my family. Now I see a lot of things around. Sometimes really, many students also from Minnesota, one of the people shared with me, get ready, we don't go out. You have to prepare yourself. This is what he shared with me.
Okay, my two Monty Togway, okay, a bit more about the of what is happening today. I have talked about in essence, the U.S. has an enormous power, and with the enormous amount of power, there should also be the moral responsibility to the world that's fitting. Now, before we open it up, like advertised, I'm going to say just spend just a couple of minutes to talk about North Korea, a place that you don't hear too much about. Well, actually, you do hear a lot about, except that for me, from where I sit, it's mostly misinformation and fake news even. And I like to talk about North Korea because under this administration, I am fearful as more than ever before that there may be a military action against North Korea. North Korea is one of the most volatile regions in the world, as you know, and North Korea is one of the most misunderstood places in the world. North Korea is always spoken about, but what North Korea thinks or says is rarely heard unless it is an outrageous rant aimed at the US or unless it is an outrageous act of violence supposed to have been committed by the North Korean regime. The issue of the long-range missiles and nuclear weapons are serious ones, but we hardly ever hear about what North Korea is thinking, and more importantly, what they want from the US. There was a tiny moment of brightness during the Trump administration, when Trump was campaigning for the presidency, when he said, when he becomes the president, he would call on Kim Jong-un and invite him over to a hamburger lunch. And we will sit down and we will have lunch and we will solve our problems. I said to myself, well, maybe there's going to be some change if he becomes president. Moving away from the 3-decade-old policy of non-response, non-dialogue, threat, and non-commit. But soon enough, a faint hope, once he became president, turned into and even not of the future. So I just putting myself in this position because we've heard from many countries represented here how they feel about what is happening in this country in terms of where they come from. So I am not from North Korea, but it is one place where you hear a lot about, and I am CTS community that it's a place where we really need to pay more attention to in a serious, in an impact way. Some responsibility because in North Korea we are in our then I want to details about the history, but responsibility for what is happening in the Korean Peninsula. Now I'm going to open it up to the audience to address to us.
Hello, I'm Carl. A lot of this on Asian stuff, but just I was working and actually addressing what's going on and places with LGBTQ stuff here. Now, where it almost seemed like a year ago, we were hearing everything about what was going on with LGBTQ people in Africa. It's cut into silence. Does any have any about how that may affect people you know where you're at, or how the administration's affecting that? Because it was a very major issue in Uganda and other places, and now it's almost like we've thrown that to the radar.
Regarding LGBTQ community, in my country officially didn't accept the LGBTQ community. Even I remember when I was back home in 2010, going on to the parliament this issue. And the religious community came together at the national level, and they denounced it, fortunately, and that was happened in 2010. And from there, there was a lot of discussion going on, not really publicly, but kind of under secret order. There is a kind of discussions going on, but still now, on the government level or on the religious level, there is no much progress on that. And still, my church is working with ALC, Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. The reason why my church break from that is because of their this issue, and still now they are renegotiating to work together. I'm happy for that. And I don't know what this renegotiation will just going to do for us. That's from my country perspective, and I don't know about other parts of Africa.
My response to that is that you need to know about the regional issues in Africa so that you're well versed with what happens in Africa. So what happens is that we've got dictators, and dictators, when they lose power, what they do is that they get a law that is being passed and they put it in the desk somewhere. When they're losing popularity, they fish out that issue. So in Uganda, you've got Yoweri Museveni. That's what he did. He was losing popularity, and he fished out that LGBTQ issue where you're supposed to put them to death. And that's what he brought up, so that he would revive his political fortunes. So you find that most of the hot spots and hot issues that African politicians sometimes bring up is because of that. Then another thing is that you have here Southern, I think I'm allowed to say this, people like Southern Baptists. They put in a lot of money and they sponsor people in Africa, and they so that a law is last time a person who's called the take you down to you, and was that he exposed these shenanigans. Southern Baptists, they went and steer people, and then they make people pass these kind of laws because they're the ones who are pouring in money in there. And when they were exposed back here in the US, where they know that they're in trouble, they actually almost time out. As you need to give us time out, because what happens is that there is a bad thing that happens here in your church, in your community, because this is what you're doing and you're being exposed. So it's a two-kind scenario where you need to work here also in the US with what is happening in Africa. And the solution that people were giving is that African that do sexuality, we don't flag, but it means that people are sexual. So when you go into Africa talking about those issues, you need to take that into consideration. So what people were saying was that instead of you sponsoring people to go and do pride parades, do that. Take money, give scholarships to LGBTQ people, and when they're in closet, and you've got them, they now have masters, and PhD, you bring them back into the society, and you say, oh, yeah, you're so because Dr. enough respected, and Dr. so-and-so, but this is their sexuality. You humanize those people because they're dehumanized. So that's what people were saying, is the approach needs to change. So that's like a solution that people were asking for in Africa.
Well, I was wondering how the administration might be affected, because it just doesn't seem to talk about it.
Yeah, the thing that is there is that they deflect that and they say it's not even an issue.
And some people like the Southern Baptists support it. No.
Yeah.
Yes, perhaps one more.
Yes, I just found it very interesting that the administration is ignoring basically the whole huge continent of Africa, as though it were barren of any interest or any even financial incentive. And that's just crazy to me, because it's like a very rich continent. And so I wonder what kinds of things are not being talked about, where what corporations are doing and how they're manifesting and impacting and and having an impact on American markets, monies, that type of thing, without us knowing about it necessarily. Because there's so much there. There's the uranium, there's the diamonds, there's the everything there that makes the West run, really. The oil. So what kind of deals are being made? What is happening that we're not seeing, or that's not being talked about? And I also thought it was interesting that 100 African people were precluded from getting visas, but they are not necessarily identified as Muslims as the people are who are victims of the travel ban. They're just banned without being acknowledged that they're being banned. It's just weirdness to me, and I want to know if there's any kind of understanding of how that kind of sleight of hand is working to somehow enrich the oligarchs who obviously must have some kind of financial interest in such a huge, financially viable continent.
So you need to understand that this is the way that we understand the US when we're in Africa, is that if you do not have anything of interest to the US, then you are a non-entity. The radar will go like whew, whew, and go past you. But here's something that happens when you have Botswana has got a base. So suddenly Botswana becomes very interesting because the base of the US is in Botswana and it becomes a protectorate. I'm forgetting another nation which is there. We call it magnets. It got a magnet, and the magnet that we know that the US is interested in, it's a 3-letter word, OIL. So they discovered oil in that country. I'm forgetting the name of the country. All of a sudden, it became a magnet. And Rex Tillerson, ExxonMobil, is interested in that country. I'm forgetting the name of the countries, I'm just forgetting. Then they had to build a pipeline because this country is landlocked, and this pipeline, the same as the one that you're building in, the one that you were going to use or not use, US still, that one. So they had to massacre people, tribal people that were in the way of the pipeline. But that never got any news headlines because it was not very important. But then now what happens is that the leader of the country, when he gets the money from the oil that has been exported, they then now buy, instead of buying medicine and food, what's the thing that they buy? Tanks, ammunition. And then his army is like very strong. And who supplies that? So that's where the thing is at. So if you don't have anything of interest to the US, then they will not do that. And you need to remember that 1888, when they partitioned Africa, there are different Western countries that have got different interests in certain parts of Africa. So, I mean, it's a whole kind of issues when you've got like partitioned, Africa was partitioned. From there onwards, they've got, like the British are interested in my country and Botswana and other countries, and then the French and all that and what have you. It's a whole lot of interests that are there, but if they don't have anything that is of interest, then yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for attending this session. And once again, my thanks to all the members of the panel.